Welcome back to the inaugural Folklore Live podcast under the banner Kinfolk, which is all about sharing our inheritances and our interconnectedness through our gifts and legacy and heritage so that we can form real bonds with our community. Today, I'm really excited to introduce an artist who really shares the same vision as us, which is to really preserve and document our folklore and stories through the technology of music. Odwa Bongo is one of the compelling voices coming up in contemporary folk music. He blends soul and jazz into traditional sounds. And today we're going to unmask him and unpack his story. Welcome, Odwa.
Thank you, thank you.
And welcome to you, the live audience. It's a real pleasure to have you here today. Odwa, let's start right at the beginning. Okay. Yeah? Born and raised in Paarl, Mbekweni.
Yes.
It's very interesting to me, some of us Xhosa folk who come from the Transkei, so to speak, often never really know what forms of the village or community really hails in the Western Cape. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And to really find an artist like yourself who's embraced traditional ancient instruments in that space. Tell us about your upbringing and how that shapes you and influences you.
Cool. So, growing up, my father was a music lover, my mom as well. So in my house, basically, almost like daily, you would hear music. So all kinds of music, from like kwaito to your R&B to gospel, like traditional gospel, to jazz, like everything. So my dad was just like an all-rounder in terms of genres of music.
Yeah.
And my mother was very much of a church, person. But within that, she has always encouraged us to not forget where we come from, to always look into what our culture is about, because at the end of the day, as we grow older, so in my household we are 4 men, actually 5 men, there's no girls.
Wow.
So the duty then becomes really heavy and a lot, because then we need to know what actually happens in order for us to run our household and to stand up as men in the house once my father is no longer there, of which that is the case now. And so back in the day, I remember I would ask my father a few certain questions about my culture, because I was very interested in it. And he would always refer me to ask his sister, my aunt. And I think for me, then that was an eye-opener to that. Actually, I need to dig in more deeper into this and really find out what my culture is all about. And also because I love music, that then came automatically.
Right.
Yeah.
So is my suspicion right that the Western Cape is filled with migrated Xhosa people? So when you dig deep, where do you go to? Do you go to Engama, Siapi? Exactly.
So according to our history at home, so my father's father, they come from Elite.
Okay.
So, but we've never been there. Because my father was born bred in Paarl. But my mother, was in Bushwa,
Okay.
So that's where we would go most of the time. Because that's where Ilalizak is a con. So that's also sort of like where I learned quite a lot of things about my culture, even though I would ask my aunts and everyone around, but it was more prominent on my mother's side.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you start then to connect these sort of cultural teachings into your music? When an artist, plays the traditional bowl like Uhadi, there's always this imagination that there's a grandmother on a stoop in a village, who says when you're like about 5 years old, Inamdanam, But I know that a lot of us have always felt a little uprooted, and so it's taken some journey to find ourselves either in the music or even in the story. So what's your journey?
So with Uwadi.
With Uwadi?
Sure. So basically, I came across Uwadi when I just finished matric. So I was never exposed to indigenous instruments then, but I saw this instrument just laying there at the academy that I was studying at, the Rainbow Academy back in Cape Town. and it looked very abandoned. And I was very intrigued and I was very interested to find out what this instrument does. And I remember I asked the principal, I was like, look, I see this instrument here, but I don't know what its purpose is. Can I play it? And then she's like, yeah, sure, you can, let's fix it for you and then you can play it. Then I did. I mean, I fell in love with the instrument the first time I actually played it. And ever since then, I've never looked back. I've never looked back. Then I just stuck to it. And also when I started performing, that was the year that I actually started performing hectically back in Cape Town.
Right. So if you could give us then a little bit more color around your musical background, from school to where you are now.
Yes. All right. So I come from India, right? And I've always known that I am going to be a musician. This is a question that I get asked if I've always known. Yes, I've always known. Because I loved church. So taking it a bit back, so in primary school, I would go to church every Sunday because that's what our parents teach us to do. And I actually had upampam. I don't know what is upampam in English.
Yeah,
but I'd say it's this percussive instrument that's made out of leather. It's like a guitar, basically.
Like in the church, like
yes, yes.
A beat, we call it the beat.
Yes.
Because kuna session a beat, so the one is like a shaker,
yes.
And the pam pam is like when you beat your Bible for beat.
Yeah. So I really loved that as a child, and I remember I was very sad the one time because I was also very good at it, So
you're a beat maker. You were like me. I lock the beat in.
Really enjoyed it, and there was a point also where it was taken away from me for a bit, and then I was very sad about it. But also, that time I would go home, sing in the bathroom, do the normal, sing in the bathroom, sing at home, around and in the shower, whatever. And then that is when, I think for me, that's when I definitely knew by sharp, this is where I'm going and this is what I'm about. And then I left my primary school because they did not cater to music. So I was lucky enough to go to a private school which catered for music, and I studied then music as a subject and was introduced into jazz. But before that, then I was at Bridge House, that was my high school. Then, half primary school and then high school as well. But in between that, I went to the Drakensberg Boys Choir School.
Oh my.
Yes.
We love the Drakensberg Choir. It's love how it's the Drakensberg Boys Choir School. It's like so specific and curated and considered. Wonderful.
So there then I received like really intense training, vocal training specifically, in music and mostly classical music. And then that's when I had my first international tour. And then I came back to Bridge House, and then I was introduced to jazz, and then I did that for a bit, and was the vocalist for the Standard Bank School's big band. And then, after that, then I carried on with music, did it as a subject, and went to the Rainbow Academy to study music and business. And then this is where everyone was kind of puzzled, because people thought that I would do jazz at university, and I just swapped. I was like, no, I'm doing African music. And then people were so like, we're not expecting that. I'm like, yeah, but this is the thing that has been, deep in with me, and this is what I want to do.
Let's dig into that. So did you then do ethnomusicology, or what is the subject exactly?
I did music performance.
Okay,
that,
in African sounds.
Stage, yes.
Before we go into how you blend sort of these modern worlds, because we always come back to find jazz, it's very well documented. The American Songbook, our South African Songbook of Jazz, there's so much that we can borrow from, but I think it's really important to talk through how we as sort of like indigenous folk blending artists come to find the work meaningful. So there's two parts I'd love to discuss.
Okay.
The first part is the spirituality that exists in African culture, African spirituality that really drives us to the work. And the second bit is the preservation work. Let's go into the spirituality. I know you grew up under the gospel. I don't know if it was Methodist. I don't know if it was Anglican. I don't know if it was Ethiopian, but in Ethiopia.
I just know, but it was called the Baptist Church.
Okay, it was a Baptist church. Yeah.
That's what it was called. I think for me, the whole side of me becoming very African spiritually rooted was when I got older, because I then started to have questions.
Yeah.
Why are certain things the way they are, and in terms of how Christians do things, and how Abantu Besintu also then do things. It was quite different, but also was trying to figure out how does it link? Where is the link? And for a long time, I couldn't find it. Even now, I still struggle to find it. I didn't go to church for Easter. My mother came back and she was like, "Yo, mntanam, ndikunqamile awuye enkonzweni ngeminye iziganeko." And because I've always told her that, allow me to find my own way, because I've always, when we grew up going to church every Sunday, I didn't feel that I had my own connection with this God. There was always a third person, which was her, who, forced me, and in for her, it was a way of teaching me the rule of life, or the way things in life works. And I guess I am a rebel in her house for not wanting to go to church sometimes.
What is the disconnect, and what would you say is like your practice then in spirituality?
Sure. And yes?
I'm here to support you because, here as the folklore community, we are deeply connected with this idea of African spirituality.
Yes.
And I guess, as a conversation, you and I can both navigate it, do you know? I think there's always the idea, I guess, in South Africa around having an origin of spirituality, pre-colonial, before the missionaries, before the banners of churches, whether it's the Anglican or the Catholic or the whatever it was, there was always a sense of worship in the music.
Yes.
And I think in the traditional space, there's always this idea of duality, where there is an existence of ritual, there's an existence of song, of healing, of cultural spiritual practice. And the music is the preservation hub of those cultural spiritual hubs. Do you know?
Yes.
And what happens then when we start to kind of embody that in the music, it does start to create a disconnect. I'm often asked, so now you're no longer a Christian. you're telling us about rites of passages and bits and bobs, but the music is a preservation hub for all of this, and so it then starts to have us ask these questions.
Yes.
And maybe we can lean into the music to tell the story that you're still navigating.
Yes.
Do you know? So in the music, what brings you to the connection with the creator, or the connection of why you do what you do?
Sure. Hi, you're asking me all difficult questions. Yes.
Silapango.
Look, I always tell people that for me, I don't know why I do what I do. I am just driven by whatever is driving me to do what I do, and I stick to that because I believe in the fact that I need to follow what my heart says. If my heart says today that I need to burn Impepho here, I will do it. I don't have time to be asking questions in terms of why I need to do it. I know that I was told that I should keep it and it should be there at all times.
Impepho being sage for our audience that doesn't know.
And why I need to burn it, I don't know. But I feel it in me that now it's time that you need to burn Impepho. Even when I leave my house, I need to sort of ask for permission to leave my house. Why I do that, I do not know. And I think also that's when my belief then comes to say that it's my people. who are speaking to me in different ways. And therefore, if God can do that, the God of Christianity can do that, then definitely I believe that my father, who is no longer here, I believe that he's my biggest ancestor right now, and my grandfather and my Oma, both of them. So, yeah, I'm derailing now.
No, you're not. You're right. You're right on it. And I'm not going to call it the money, but you're right on the pulse of the conversation. No, that's very enlightening, and I think there is that ancestral bit that really does connect us, really to our work, to our flow. I love the idea of being guided and having heavy intuition, and honestly, as musicians, that's what we do. We're constantly channeling.
Yes.
I do want to ask a question around just kind of your background being Xhosa. Has Xhosa always been the medium in which you write from, considering that you kind of fed into jazz a bit and then came back to this musically?
Yes.
I guess a language, sorry, not a medium.
Yes. So I write a lot in Xhosa because I relate to Xhosa more. And I think also listening a lot to Usimpiwe Dana, I think that was the first sort of like jazz artist that I ever listened to. Not so much on isiXhosa, but when you listen to music and it takes you to certain places, or the artists themselves, like they have they have something so special about them. And I think that added to why then I love isiXhosa as much as I do now.
Yeah.
Because I believe that had she written music in a different language, she wouldn't have had those corners.
Yeah.
She was never going to be able to get there. So, so because I relate to her kind of music and her style of voice, and therefore I then connect very well with isiXhosa, and of course it's my language. Yeah.
Mother tongue. I had an entire conversation yesterday about. It was a French professor. I'm learning French, but I said in French, "What do I say is my mother tongue?" And he said maternal langue. And then I said, but what is your first language? They call the first language whatever was being spoken around you while you were in the womb. So I guess it is a mother tongue. It is quite maternal. You speak of your influences, Simpiwe Dana being one of them. And the interesting thing about language is that it is music. Like Xhosa is already rhythmic, onomatopoeic. It's really... it defines a lot of what's happening. It's very descriptive. But also our intonation, right? When we speak, you speaking Ula, you're singing in the language. And so really when artists like Simpiwe Dana came out, they really showed us the different ways in which phrases could go and things you couldn't do, the things you can't do, like you can't end a phrase on a high note because the language doesn't end on a high note. Doesn't make sense. And there's so much respect to that. So talking about your influences, who are your other influences as you kind of developed your sound and why?
I'd say I have Kamagwini as well, also Uzolani Mahala as well. But I think I also have to mention the music of our people. When you go to Ezlalini or even Naselokshini, when you get to a ceremony. This is one of the reasons why I love going to ceremonies, because
I keep wanting to translate you because we are not going to subtitle this thing. Ezilalini to the village, Elokshini to the township.
So the reason I go to these ceremonies and rituals is because I look forward to the music. I look forward to the original corners that Abamama and Abadada that are going to go into. It truly excites me. And it's truly very inspiring for me. And therefore I keep that. That's always my sort of if my cup is not overflowing, I go there just to fill it up. Even for my creative purposes. That's really, really where I go. And then obviously the artists that I mentioned, and a lot of others who add onto this cup. But mostly, really, honestly, it's filled with traditional music from the ceremonies that we go to, the ceremonies that I attend as a Xhosa man, if I may say that. Yes, I'm allowed to say that now.
Yes, you are. So the process of discovery then in like your music and your journey, what is the fundamental thing that you lean into? Because you said earlier that you kind of just guide it and you don't ask questions when you're being told to do something.
Yes.
But there's a level of wisdom, you know, that we try and source from something we're being given, whether it's traditional folk songs, etc. So what is your thing or purpose in the music? What stories are you trying to tell?
For me, right now, I talk about the stories mostly of women in the village, because learning from Umakuluma Dosini and the stories that she told us before she passed on, you know, I felt that it was absolutely important that we keep the legacy of our music and where we actually come from. And the stories of these women, you know, most of them were not, as today, I mean, not all of them are told, and there's more, you know, of these stories. For example, and the reason I say this is because I play wadi. So wadi is an instrument that was played by women back in the day. And they would use wadi to accompany them in whatever songs or stories that they wanted to tell in that moment and at that time. And therefore, this is what I mean when I say those are the stories that almost I can say those are the forgotten stories, but also they were never written down. You know, that's how African music really was back in the day. It was more of an oral situation. So really, honestly, I feel that I am telling the stories of Omama Basis Lalini that probably did not have a voice to tell their stories, and now I've been given the task to do that. Hence the head wrap also, I think, because it represents a lot of the women that are in my life and those that came before me. I used to have an aunt that I really, really loved. Like, I had quite a very close relationship with her. And I think one of the reasons I wear this head wrap is because of her, because I do see her in my dreams sometimes, and she's really happy. At one point, I nearly asked her, I'm fine, like, are you not dead? But I mean, that was in a dream, and she was sitting there with my dad and my other aunt who also passed away. But they were quite happy, and I think, so this is definitely a representation of them, the woman in my life.
It's all interesting how a lot of the gifted artists in South Africa basebenza ngamathongo. It's always the dreams and staying connected to the ancestral through dreams. Sure. And in that way, they also display a way in which they give us these inheritances. We believe that, you know, or if one isn't here, they still contribute to channeling music and work and ideas through us, because that stays in our legacy and it stays in our bones, and it, you know, it lives with us. So that's a beautiful story. I was going to go into the song Kula Kwetini, but now that you're on the woman, Nomathemba might just be the one we might want to talk about now.
Okay.
Because I have very deep questions about Kula Kwetini, which is a song that's sung, a traditional folk song, when the boys go for circumcision and they rite of passages. So I think let's go toward Nomathemba.
Sure.
Is that also a dedication to your aunt, or what is the narrative in that song?
So that song was, it's a song that we used to sing back in pre-primary school. You know, if you remember, it went like, when I know my temper, ube twing back. Oh, and your name, I was.
Okay.
So that's that's the song. And really loved the song until when I picked up Uadi. And I was like, oh, cool, what songs can I play from this instrument? And that was one of the songs that I remembered. And before then, I had not analyzed the lyrics of the song. Because we sing these songs when we are children and we think they are fun to sing and that it's happy songs. And we also become happy. But as an adult, I sat down with myself, and because it was time for me to do that, because I was playing the instrument and, you know, I'm a musician, so I need to account on everything that I play, everything that I sing, and everything I say. So I sat down and had a look at the lyrics, and it was sad to find out that it was actually a song about women and children abuse.
Wow.
And also at the time in South Africa, I mean, even today, but also at that time specifically, it was a big thing, you know, with women and children abuse. And the conversations were happening left, right, and center. And I thought then, again, I don't know what led me to that. And I just felt that it was then the right time for me to sing the song, but also not to only raise the fact that women and children are being abused in South Africa, but to also remind men that we actually have a very big role to play in society, and that is to nurture our women and children so that we live in a better society. Also, it is our duty as men to protect our women and children. Therefore, if they don't feel protected, then definitely there's something that is not right in this world. Yeah.
Shall we let the music speak for itself?
Sure.
Here's Odwa Bongo with Nomathemba.
Ubethembani nomathemba, ubethembani Ubetha manje nomathemba, ubetha manje nomathemba. Oh yeah.
For that beautiful performance.
Thank you.
It's so weird to even call it a performance because it just feels like an invocation. Do you know what I mean? And also the instrument of uhadi having this like deeply ancestral spirit in itself.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
tell us about your relationship with uhadi and how it's, you know, has shaped your sound. I always, you know, imagine, and you can technically correct me around how, and I don't want to call them limitations, but the instrument has very specific tones and ranges.
Yes.
And I'm always interested to see the people who can sing around that and find different spaces, do you know?
Yeah.
Let's talk to your relationship with it and how you write around it and how you build with it.
Sure. So usually, talking about writing, what I do when I write, I don't choose when to write. I wake up at any point in time when my mind tells me that now it's time. Then I do it. Whether if I'm at home, most of the time I write from my room at home, and usually I just go ahead and write whatever sounds I hear in my head, and then what I would have to do then is to transpose whatever I hear to obviously my uhadi, or sometimes the other way around, where I pick up the instrument, start playing, and music just comes like that. But I think the instrument, it was never made for public, if I may put it that way. It's a very personal instrument, and it's a very soft, it's a very, tutuzela, I don't know what is tutuzela.
Comforting.
Yes. And I think from that comfort, I guess it has taught me to keep my voice in that way, and allow my voice to be of comfort, and sometimes of discomfort as well. But the uhadi itself has allowed me to express myself in whichever way that I feel. And that is why when I do my shows, I say, because I even can't explain what my shows are. I always say, just come. All that you're going to do is you're going to experience it, and then you tell me how you feel after. Because I believe that my job is to get into the space and provide a space where people can come together and basically vent very comfortably, without being judged. If you feel like crying, you can cry. I believe that even those moments, when someone cries, when someone shouts out a sound, it contributes so much to the song that is being played at the time, and therefore that then creates even the space even in a much better way.
Yeah. In terms of your artistic expression, I guess, then with blending this traditional sound and how it's inspired you to be the way that you've described, comforting and sometimes finding the discomfort,
Yes.
how does the genres of soul and jazz then come into the space? And is it usually mostly with collaborators and then finding a way synergetically together?
Yes, it's mostly with collaborators, but also sometimes I would write something without the instrument, and I would feel that it's more suited for jazz. But I would try and find a way to make it my own, to make it Odwa Bongo.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you always then trying to find a space for this instrument in all songs, or?
Right now, I'm trying to find this in all songs, really. I recently did an album with an Afrikaans poet. So you can imagine.
We're imagining it.
With Afrikaans poetry. And it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, I don't know when their album is coming out, but it should be coming out soon. But yes, definitely, I believe in preserving Uwati as one of our indigenous instruments, and therefore, in order for me to be able to do that, then I have to tap in, into finding space for it in every way that I can, so that the instrument is very much there and that it is visible, so that people see it. Because the more they see it, the more they are more interested in wanting to know what it is. I remember sometimes when I take a normal taxi, going to wherever I go, I always get stopped. And it's interesting that I even get stopped by Xhosa men and Xhosa women to find out, what is this instrument? And most of them confuse it with umkhobe. So umkhobe is a smaller one, and you use your mouth as the resonator. Whereas for this one, you have the calabash as the resonator. So they like to confuse the two, and I just laugh at them.
You're like, you should know, but you don't know.
But you don't know. But also they come across as, because I'm younger than them, I guess.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, no, we know what you're carrying. But I'm like, okay, Tata, sharp, no problem. But also, I mean, that's also very nice that they are very inquisitive and wanting to, touch them. But I always tell them, please don't touch it. Because, I mean, as I said, it's a very personal instrument. And back in the day, so when you were to play the instrument, there were certain things that you were not allowed to do. For example, you are a woman of the household and you are very much respected. So there are certain things that you are allowed to do and certain that you're not allowed to do. So, which then gives you the privilege of touching this instrument. But again, unfortunately, if you're a Xhosa, you're not allowed to touch it at all.
Oh my goodness. I thought those things were like maybe when whatever they say, defiled.
Yes.
Back then a woman is always like sacred at that time of the month. But
yes.
Now I didn't know that Xhosas were not allowed. So what are we...
No, well, the reason why I said Xhosas is because Xhosa is very explicit, right? So there's a song that I love doing. It's from Tamakuri, actually. And also Umatosini, also, it's very interesting. Umakonofunishi Dwili has a song about Amahule. Utamaguni has a song about Amahule. Umakolmatosini also has a song about
Hayini. Amahule hose. In Xhosa.
Yeah. So, and it's for me, it's very interesting, and that actually happened during their time. So meaning that there's really nothing new under the sun. And I love singing such explicit songs as well because it really speaks to what Xhosa is about. And the fact that we're very explicit, we call it spade a spade. Setokana, and very explicitly so. And it's not a bizarre thing, we do it right there in the ceremony. And I think this is also the beauty of it, is that I can create a song right now. Let's say it's a ceremony, I can create a song right now. Maybe I know that, wena, utele ubani.
Hayi wena.
And then I would sing about it, and the nice thing is that there were, oh, you did something wrong, whatever the case is. But the beauty about it is that there was no physical fights. The only way that you could fight is to respond back with song. And that's how many of the songs were made. And hence we have so many songs today, of course, that are not written down, that some of them we don't even know. And those are the songs of these women that I'm talking about. And unfortunately, most of them will never hear. We'll only hear those few that
come to the surface, so that
yes. And
there's one maybe we should try and do together. I recently learned it in November. We were doing a ceremony for my dad's tombstone. And the woman, you know, okay, it gets lit. There was umqomboti, and when the traditional beer flows, hey, you don't know what it's laced with because it's ancestrally laced. There's a woman who sings an apology to her husband, saying she fell pregnant by mistake and that he was not there. Kolomien wam, dimi tengem pasamo. Kolomien wam, ubungeko. Kolomien wam. Yes.
no,
Yeah.
I can see
There's
this.
so many of these songs. I mean, I love what you're saying. Like we create song from real experience in real time. You know.
I mean, sorry. There's another one which I used to sing also. Well, I heard it from TikTok as well. And then I performed it for the first time back in Cape Town at the waterfront, and people loved this song. But it's called Ungezi, so meaning like, don't come, basically. So what happened was that, so this man, the husband of this wife, worked here in Joburg, Egoli, let's put it that way. And so then now this wife had a side dish situation back in the Eastern Cape. And it so happened this time that the side dish came over and the main man was in the house. And so she was busy making food and she was basically just singing to this guy saying, oh, so saying that, brother, you mustn't come tonight because the main man is here in the house. So that the husband wasn't aware, but that was the situation that was happening, and therefore then the song literally made its birth, you know, and that's how the song was created.
We're grateful to TikTok for virality, guys.
Yes.
I suppose TikTok is now also the documenter of our folklore.
Yes.
You know, we're coming close to closing this session with you. Of course, all the artists that we're spotlighting through this podcast, we want to host for shows upcoming during our Heritage Month, which is when our festival is hosted. However, let's plug a show that's coming up very soon on the 2nd of May at Xhosa di Piazza.
Yes.
I'm always very wary of saying that word because I'm not sure I'm reading it right. Xhosa di Piazza. Is it correct? It's in Melville. That's the one.
Yes.
We read it, but we don't read it.
Yes.
So we don't say it. But however, it's coming up on the 2nd May.
Yes.
And there's a lot that's been going on. I really want to capture what people can expect, as well as just sort of talk through some of the singles that you're working towards and whether there's an EP coming up. Can you tell us more about like what's coming in the future?
So, an EP.
Or an album.
I'm caught up between releasing the EP or just not, and just doing a whole album from scratch. But definitely I am working on some music that I need to obviously release sometime this year. But for now, as I'm saying, I'm doing a lot of collaborative work with other artists who are doing amazing things. And one that's going to come up now, it's this Afrikaans poetry and Owadi collaboration that is going to, I think it's going to be released this month.
Can we name Chester Summerton? This is the collaborator,
yes,
right?
The collaborator,
Tell us
yes.
more, yeah.
Chester Summerton, I met with Chester back in Port Elizabeth a while back, and I actually didn't know him. I was looking for a pianist to help me with the gig that I was doing there, and he came through, and after that we gelled well together, and then we've been working together for quite some time now, And so I decided that we will do a show here in Johannesburg where we really put a spotlight to this instrument. Because I also do a whole project called Odwa Experience where I collaborate with Western classical, with a Western classical ensemble, mostly strings. But this time around, because also I feel I can say it's not my first time really doing it, but I can say this is my very, very first time I'm coming as Odwa Bongo as myself. Therefore, I really just want to introduce Oadi and the rawness of the instrument to my audience in Johannesburg, because you've called me and now I'm here. I'm here to see you guys.
Welcome.
Yeah, and I know that it's also been said that this vibe or this energy is very much welcome to this side. So I thought to myself, let me bring it and share it with Joe Burgers.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to open up to a quick Q&A if anyone has questions before I do my closing questions, and for you to please serenade us with a closing song.
Cool.
Any questions from the audience? No? Going once, going twice.
Cool.
Earlier we talked a lot. Thank you. You're nervous.
Yes.
Hey, the questions that I'm firing though, these ones that must make you nervous, because my next one, I want to dig into something that is, it's an ongoing conversation, and I suppose when you put certain music to the fore, people will engage you. I also have a single of the same traditional folk song, and I guess there's so many point of views to navigate.
Yes.
Around the topic.
Sure.
So ndizakuqula kwedini. Your latest, it's a latest single. How long ago was it? It's your latest one.
Yes.
I really love your interpretation of it.
Thank you.
You know, and this is the thing about our inheritances, being these traditional songs and stories, is that really there's so many points of views that we could do it 20 times.
Yes.
You know, we could do it 100 times.
Yeah.
You know, when I think of like, you know, having reinterpreted the traditional folk song, the click song.
Yes.
It's brought so many opportunities to me as an artist, you know, globally, and it's helped me navigate a topic that no one was thinking about, bringing meaning. I'm particularly interested in your I guess your engagement with like masculinity. You said you grew up in a home with lots of men.
Yes.
And you also navigate culture from the perspective where there are responsibilities and you account.
Yes.
As a man.
Yes.
And then earlier you also said, I can say now that I'm a man.
Yes.
We don't have to go that deep and the music will speak. But can you tell us then, uba uphi wena nobutota bakho esiXhoseni, and is this song been brought about because of a journey that you've been through?
So, of course I am a man. I strongly put that out there. And it's got nothing to do with anything but just to say that I was also once here in this world, and I am who I am, and people must just accept it. But that's just how it is, and that's how I am. And my family, they never treated me badly or anything like that.
Yeah.
Always very supportive of the person that I am and the things that I do. And yeah, and pretty much the song, the reason I saw, there was a moment in the Eastern Cape on my mother's side. So we went to fetch my cousin from
Esutwini,
yes.
Coming out of the
And
practice.
so for me, that was the first time, and probably also the last time that I'll ever do it. I don't know. But that was the first time where I felt really happy.
Wow.
About, you know, being a man, because then literally I was leading the man. I was trying to right at the forefront. Of course, they were like older men as well. But the fact that I was given that chance and that opportunity to do that, to go and wisdom my cousin was really, I don't know, man, it was just a very special moment for me. And what I remember was, now there were 2 songs that were sang. So it's the man singing Odwa Bongo coming to the house. And then the women are also singing their own song. And the beauty of it is that I'm right at the forefront, so I can hear one song from this side and another, and the way that they clash together, man, like it's so, it was so beautiful. And also, I mean, the songs are totally different, but the way that they clashed and they merged quite well together, I think it also for me then it was, a confirmation of that, it doesn't matter what people say or think about me or whatever, but I'm a part of all of this. I'm a part of all of this that is happening, and I should be very happy about it and embrace it as well, very well.
Right.
Yeah.
I have the word inspired. It's almost like an inspired becoming, do you know? Because we become and choose who we become.
Yes.
And just to give context, the song is sung during a rite of passage when a boy becomes a man after living for a month in the mountains. And it's really a tradition in the Xhosa culture that's been upkept in its rawest, do you know? And of course, very controversial in the ways of the practice.
Yeah.
And so the conversation is just to bring light as to how you come to embrace that song as Odwa, and it's really a beautiful, I think, point of view.
Yeah.
So it's just like inspired becoming, and it really is that. And the song is really beautifully interpreted. I love it absolutely so much. Thank you so much for coming to chat to us today. We hope that we can present you at the Folklore Festival sometime very, very soon. If there's any other shows you would like us to know about, please let us know now.
Sure. So I'm doing 2 shows. So it's one in Pretoria on the 1st of May at the South African Black Labona, which happens at the South African State Theatre. And then the 2nd of May, which is going to be happening at Xhosa. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be there next week. We absolutely hope that we can see you there. But for now, take some inspiration. Here's Odwa Bongo with Kula Kweti.
Oh, Pilani Bubu, Segusile, Timbanu Bushe, Belanga, Kezu Africa, Situtelwe, Buchamba, Se, Tukuzongena. Diva, Betty,